Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere a little grim. But don't worry, you're already doomed. Picture this. The air is thin, your lips are cracked, and the wind tastes like altitude. You're clutching a bundle of unfamiliar supplies while your feet thud against a stone path built centuries before you were born. The Andes rise round you like sleeping gods with sharp edges. There's no horizon, just up and more up. You are not a soldier, or a priest, or a noble. You're a runner, a hauler, a nobody. And you have miles to go before your lungs give up. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening somewhere far from the Andes, maybe a quiet corner of Ohio or a rainy cafe in Seoul, let me know in the comments. I love hearing where and when you're now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're already late, which is a problem, because the Inca Empire does not appreciate delays, and you, conscripted from your humble village for the honored obligation of state service, are about to set foot on a road that doesn't forgive hesitation. The sandals on your feet were made from rawhide 3 seasons ago. They fit your older brother better, but he got the flu last winter and now they're yours. Your tunic, more holes than wool, does nothing against the early morning chill that lingers like a ghost round the edges of the mountains. The sun hasn't even properly risen, but your bones have already started complaining. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long month. You're standing at the edge of a stretch of the Chapacuan, the Royal Inca road system. Royal is generous. It's a narrow, stone-paved thread that snakes through the mountains like a dare. The stones are slick with morning frost, and one misplaced step means a twisted ankle. Or worse, your cargo scattered across a cliffside like very disappointing confetti. Your cargo, by the way, is a sealed packet wrapped in animal skin, tied with sacred cords, and labeled in a language you can't read. You were told not to open it, not to damage it, and certainly not to forget it. You don't even know what's inside. It could be dried corn. It could be a royal tooth. It might be a royal tooth inside dried corn. Whatever it is, it has to make it to Cusco. And if it doesn't, you'll be remembered mostly as a cautionary tale. Your travel companions are few. A man named Parker who coughs like he's trying to expel a small demon. A boy from another village whose name you keep forgetting. And of course the llamas. So many llamas. They grunt. They shuffle. They spit. One looks at you like it knows you're going to fall off a cliff. And frankly, it's not wrong. Behind you, your village is already fading from sight. The simple mud walls, the smoke from breakfast fires, the smell of boiled quinoa, all gone. Ahead lies altitude, bureaucracy, biting wind, unpredictable animals, and the charming mystery of whether or not your organs can actually freeze mid-function. You pass the first marker stone. These were set by the Inca to track distances, sort of like ancient mile markers. Only these are shaped like tiny, smug reminders of how far you still have to go. Your legs start to ache preemptively. The path cuts along the side of a ridge so steep that you instinctively lean away from the drop. One wrong footfall and you'll tumble down into a ravine so deep it probably has its own ecosystem. You pretend you don't notice, and so does everyone else. No one wants to be the first to admit the mountains a winning dot as the morning sun climbs. So do you. The temperature lifts grudgingly, just enough to remind you that the sun exists, but not enough to thaw your fingers. Your breath fogs the air in short, wheezy bursts. You try to find a rhythm to your steps, something like left, right, don't, die, repeat. You pause near a stone platform built into the slope. It's part of a tambos, one of the Empire's network of supply stations. There's no one there yet. Just an empty clay bowl with the ghost of someone's last meal clinging to it. You sit for a moment. Your legs protest. Your spine is furious. Your stomach reminds you that your breakfast was mostly hope and a few bites of cold tuber. This stambos, like many others, is humble. Just a few walls, a little thatched roof, and a clay basin for offerings to Inti, the sun god. You toss in a coca leaf, just to be safe. Superstition feels practical when you're climbing toward the sky. A breeze picks up, cutting through your clothes like a gossiping ant. You adjust your bag and rise. You can hear the llamas catching up. Their footsteps are soft but constant. The Inca knew what they were doing with these animals. They're durable. They can handle the altitude, and they don't ask for anything except endless patience, and sometimes not even that. You trudge onward. The slope sharpens, the air thins. Further, your head buzzes faintly. A low electric hum behind your eyes. It's not altitude sickness, not yet. Just a preview. The real fun comes later. The rocks under your feet have shifted subtly. These were laid by Inca engineers with extraordinary precision. Some historians still argue whether they had tools advanced enough to carve such seamless joints, or if it was all done by trial, error, and a lot of very tired apprentices. You admire the craftsmanship, briefly. Then you trip on a loose pebble and curse the entire empire under your breath. At mid-morning, you pass a solitary chasqui runner. He moves like a birdlight, fast, barely touching the ground. He gives you a nod that says good luck and you're going to hate this in equal measure. You nod back, too out of breath for words. The runner vanishes into the horizon, leaving you alone with your thoughts, your pack, and a llama that keeps eyeing your food. Remember your tunic. It's damp now, with sweat and possibly tears. It sticks to your back like regret. You'd give anything for a dry shirt, or indoor plumbing, or a single potato that wasn't freeze-dried into a tasteless cube of crunchy sadness. By late morning, the sun sits directly overhead. The chill recedes slightly, replaced by a dry, biting brightness. Your eyes ache from the glare. You squint into the path ahead and wonder if you've gone blind, or if that's just how this road looks, like a never-ending belt of stone and sorrow. And then comes the sound, a whistle carried on the wind. Someone up ahead, a checkpoint, a relay post, or just another traveler, halfway through their own personal Andean odyssey. You clutch your bundle tighter. You've made it through the first stretch. Congratulations, only about 300 more to go. Meanwhile, back in the modern world, your phone is dead, but so are your neighbors, because it turns out you don't have any neighbors up here, just stone, wind, and the creeping suspicion that you'll never feel your toes again. The whistle was real, and it's getting closer. You glance up just as a group of travelers rounds a bend ahead, to men and a woman, wrapped in rough woven cloaks, each dragging a llama that looks just as miserable as yours. One of them raises a hand in greeting. You nod in reply, but it comes off more like a twitch. Your body is already entering the denial phase of fatigue, where every signal is translated as "this is fine." They pass without a word. The woman hums a tune under her breath, and for a brief moment, you envy her calm. Then you realize her llama is carrying half the load of yours, and you hate her instead. Fairly by midday, you reach a more structured tambo. This one is staffed, a stone building with 2 shaded alcoves, a fire pit, and the warm smell of something boiling in a clay pot. A man steps out from under the thatch. His face is withered. His tunic dyed in patterns you don't recognize, and he wears the sash of a record keeper. A keeper with a complex set of knotted cords hangs at his side like a weapon of soft accounting. He gives you a look that says he knows exactly how much you slept, what you had for breakfast, and how little you contributed to society this week. You offer him your name, village, destination, struggling to keep your voice even. He grunts and begins tying knots into the kibu. Each loop is a digit, each color a category. It's how the Empire keeps track of everything. Food, goods, roads, taxes. You don't fully understand it, but you know enough to stand still and not interrupt. You try not to look at the teapot over his shoulder. Once he finishes, he waves you on. No food for you. That's only for couriers of higher status, or messengers carrying something obviously sacred. Your packet still looks like a suspicious potato wrapped in gelt. You nod, adjust your bag, and start up the next slope. It gets steeper, which feels like a personal attack. The stone road narrows and begins to zigzag with maddening precision. Each switchback is shorter than the last, and you begin to feel like you're stuck in a terrible geometric riddle. Climb one, turn, climb. Again, turn. Your knees hate you. Your lungs want to file a complaint. The llamas have a better time of it. They've adapted over generations to high elevation. Their padded feet grip the stone like soft, squishy snowshoes. You, on the other hand, are wearing sandals that once belonged to someone who didn't make it back from this very journey. You tell yourself they're lucky sandals, the kind of lie that's good from morale. You stop at a bluff to catch your breath. The view is stunning, jagged peaks stretching into forever, each one layered with snow like an unfinished painting. The sky is so blue it feels fake. It would be beautiful if your legs weren't screaming and your face weren't sunburned on just one side. Below, you can see a sliver of the road you just traveled. From here it looks like a thread pulled taut through a tapestry of cliffs and ledges. You think back to your village, now to days behind. The smell of stew, the chickens underfoot, the hum of conversation in the dusk. You'll never complain about weeding again. The road rises toward a narrow ridge where two stone towers mark the passage of territory. You cross under them cautiously. These markers divide the empire into zones. Some say they're used for astrology. Others think they were part of a tax system. Historians still argue whether they marked ritual boundaries, engineering marvels, or were just really aggressive rest stops. The wind picks up as you reach the ridge. It's a side wind, the kind that slaps your ears and tries to peel your skin off with every gust. You wrap your tunic tighter, but the fibers offer about as much protection as a wet napkin. You look at the llama beside you. It blinks slowly, utterly unimpressed. You continue forward, legs trembling, every step a negotiation with gravity. You are not sure if the humming in your ears is altitude sickness or the beginning of some new internal crisis. Either way, you decide to name it. You call it Greg. Greg is a raspy, vibrating presence that seems to ride along beside you, whispering things like "lie down here" and how necessary your kidneys, really. By the time the sun begins to tip west, you arrive at a larger way station, stone walls. Guardhouse, a small plaza where a few travelers are already resting. This one has the dignity of scale. A carved statue of Viracocha the Inca creator god stands in one corner, his stone eyes gazing outward like he knows you're not worthy. You don't argue. You just collapse onto a flat rock and try not to cry. Someone hands you a gourd of chicha, the fermented maize drink. It's lukewarm, slightly sour, and possibly the best thing you've ever tasted. It feels like getting your dignity back in liquid form. You eat in silence, a small pouch of roasted corn, a dried strip of meat, and a potato so old it might remember a different dynasty. Still, it's food, and it doesn't try to escape mid-bite. You take that as a win. Later, as night falls, a priest offers a blessing over the fire. He speaks in High Quechua, voice rising and falling like the wind. You don't catch every word, But you recognize the names of gods: Inti, Mamaquilla, Pacham. You bow your head out of reflex, the way your parents taught you, just in case the gods are listening. You find a place on the floor of a low hut. Between a snoring merchant and a pile of straw that smells like wet goat, you lie down, still dressed, because removing clothes means peeling off your second skin of dried sweat and regret. You close your eyes. The llama nudges the hut's flap with its nose. You ignore it. You're too tired to care. Sleep comes in fits. Your dreams are full of stairs and stone. The stars outside burn so clearly through the mountain air that they look sharp, like they might fall and cut you open. Meanwhile, back in the 21st century, someone somewhere is complaining about airport Wi-Fi. You would like to teleport into their living room just to glare at them. Your legs twitch all night. At one point, you wake to find your arm has gone entirely numb. You poke it and feel nothing. A brief panic. Then sensation returns like 1,000 tiny needles. You welcome it like an old FRENEMY at dawn. You're shaken awake by the boy traveler. You still don't remember his name. He points at the sky. A pale orange smear signals the sun's return. You groan, sit up, and check the packet. Still intact. Still not worth dying for, but apparently that's not your choice. You rise, stretch. Regret stretching, and pack your things. The fire from last night is cold. The chicha is gone. The priest is gone. Even the statue looks like it's over it. Another day. Another few thousand feet. Another 10 miles of stairs disguised as roads. And your sandals. They're starting to split. You knew the llamas weren't going to be your allies, but you didn't think they'd be so smug about it. By mid-morning, your assigned llama has stopped walking completely. It stares off into the distance like it's contemplating philosophy or revenge. Probably both. You tug gently at its lead. Nothing. You try coaxing. It snorts. You try a firmer tug. It sits. The road waits, uncaring. The sun is already warming the rocks, which means you're about 10 minutes away from developing a sunburn on top of your altitude fatigue. Your llama, let's call him Malice, knows. This, his eyes say, this is your fault. Eventually, a fellow traveler woman with a thick braid and a bag full of coca leaves offers you a handful in exchange for a future favor she doesn't define. You accept. The coca leaves help with the altitude. They also give your mouth the sensation of chewing eucalyptus-flavored cardboard. Delicious, medicinal cardboard. Malice still refuses to stand. The woman makes a strange hissing sound near its ear, and to your amazement, the beast rises like a grumpy king woken Tory. You nod your thanks. She walks on, whizzing to herself. You suspect she's part witch. You are not complaining. You rejoin your group, such as it is. One man limps. The boy with no name has developed an impressively loud cough, and your joints feel like a percussion instrument with performance anxiety. It's shaping up to be a banner day. The road begins a sharp climb. You're well above 12,000 feet now. The trees have thinned out to the occasional stubborn shrub. Even birds seem reluctant to fly this high. The stone steps are narrower here, and each one feels deliberately designed to remind you how little your knees matter in the grand scheme of Inca logistics. You pass a few carved stones along the trail. Markers, perhaps, or ceremonial boundary. Stones. One has a spiral chiseled into its face, an image historians still argue over. Some think it represents the sun. Others say it maps a specific route or pilgrimage path. You just think it's mocking you. Malice spits at a rock. You approve of his taste. You reach a turn in the trail and come face to face with a shrine. A waka, they call it. A sacred natural feature. This one is a large boulder shaped uncannily like a puma's head. It's draped with faded cloth offerings. tucked with feathers and sprinkled with old corn. You bow instinctively. Someone whispers a quick prayer. Behind you, a man places a stone at the base and taps it twice. You do the same. It feels right. Even if your legs are trembling so badly you nearly topple into the pile, the air thins again. You hadn't realized that was possible. Breathing feels like sipping oxygen through a straw someone else is using first. The coca leaves help just enough to keep your hands from going numb again. And then the path drops. Suddenly, a tight series of switchbacks leads down into a narrow valley, where a stream glints in the light like a silver ribbon. It looks inviting, refreshing. It is also a trap, because what goes down must come back up. You descend, knees wobbling with every step. The stream at the bottom is fast, cold, and shockingly loud. You wash your hands and splash your face. The water is crisp, nearly freezing, but it tastes clean. For a moment, you feel like a functioning organism again. A young boy sits nearby, weaving something from straw. He ignores you. You consider asking him the name of this place. But you already know the answer. You are not home. After the stream, the ascent resumes. You expected it, but your body hoped otherwise. The incline is cruel steeper, sharper, less forgiving. Even the llamas pause more often now. One lays down mid-climb and refuses to move until bribed with a dried fruit. You look round. The mountains are closing in. Not ominously, just indifferently. These ridges and cliffs have been here longer than memory. Empires rise and crumble on their flanks, and the stones keep holding the sky up. You are irrelevant. You are temporary. You are damp. Your tunic clings to your back again. Damp from sweat and melted frost. You think about your village's clay. Bathhouse. It's a hole in the ground with a bucket system. But right now it sounds like a royal spa. You reach a small clearing carved into the slope. Someone built a bench from stone slabs. You sit for exactly 30 seconds before the cold of the rock begins to leach into your bones. You stand. Mistake. Sitting has convinced your knees that the job is finished. You shuffle forward like someone twice your age. Onward, always onward. The empire depends on movement. A sudden gust knocks your hat off. You chase it, cursing softly in a breathless whisper. It tumbles along the path, right toward Malice. He steps on it, firmly, on purpose. By afternoon, you spot a Chaskawasia relay house used by the Chesky, the fast-footed runners of the Empire. This one is small, barely more than a hut with a stone platform and a roof of woven grass. There's no one there now, but you feel the energy of past runners passing through, exchanging messages, catching their breath, sprinting out again. You do not run. You gently collapse. You munch on a bit of sharkweed, dried meat so tough it could be used as roofing material. It's salty and fibrous, and you suspect it was originally made from an animal that hated jaw. Still, protein is protein. A few other travelers arrive, merchants with bolts of woven cloth, a soldier with a chipped spear, a woman carrying clay jars balanced on her back like fragile burdens of civilization. No one talks much. Just nods and coughs and the occasional complaint about the altitude, the road, or the way the sun seems to target your eyeballs personally. One man unwraps a pouch and shares a small, red fruit. Karpuli, he calls it, sweet, tart, and gonian. To bites, it tastes like a good memory. You thank him with a gesture, unsure if your words would come out as sounds or wheezes. The sun begins to lower again, and the temperature drops with it. The ambient switch. Heat to cold in under 10 minutes. You put on a cloak. The wind ignores it. Your nose goes numb. You contemplate writing an ode to warmth, but decide instead to keep walking. Remember the tunic, still damp, somehow damper. The smell has matured into something between sour maize and regret. Your armpits have staged a rebellion. You suspect your socks may be sentient now, as the light fades. You crest another regency. Finally, a silhouette in the distance, the outline of another tamu. Shelter, maybe food. Hopefully fire. Malice lets out a long, dramatic sigh. You second that emotion. When you arrive, the fire is already lit. A man is stirring a pot of soup so thick it barely moves. You try not to drool directly into it. You're handed a wooden bowl. It's warm, salty, and filled with things that used to be root vegetables. It's heavenly. Even the llama seems slightly impressed. You curl up that night under a borrowed blanket. Next to the embers, your feet are swollen. Your shoulders ache. Your hip makes a popping sound when you breathe. You are 1/3 through this journey, and your body is filing formal complaints with every joint. Outside, the stars blink again, brighter than yesterday. Or maybe your eyes are just adjusting to the thin air and thinner hope. Meanwhile, back in the present day, someone is complaining that their burrito delivery is 20 minutes late. You would trade a small piece of your soul for that burrito. Sleep comes slowly. Your dreams this time are full of animals with human eyes and stairs that never stop climbing. You wake once to find Malice sniffing your ear. He sneezes. You accept this as affection. The next morning, you awaken with the alarming realization that your legs have entered some kind of silent protest. They're not sore, they're insulted. Your hips groan. Your knees click like badly carved wooden dolls. Your ankles have puffed up with such delicate swelling that you wonder if your body is trying to make you beautiful through inflammation. The blanket you borrowed has fused to your tunic via sweat and freezing mist. You peel yourself free like an old stick and shuffle upright. Malice, naturally, is already awake and chewing something he stole. He doesn't even flinch when you glare at him, a true professional. You chew a bit of leftover chocolate giant Andean corn that tastes vaguely like warm wax and get moving. There's no warm-up, no limbering stretch, no gentle glide into the day. There's just another steep incline and the slow, grinding rhythm of your suffering. You're ascending again, this time toward a notorious pass nicknamed, with no irony, the slope of clouds, which sounds poetic, but turned out to be less fluffy and more like hiking into a damp lung. The path curves up along a sharp cliffside where the stones feel slicker than they should be. Everything here is stone. The stairs are stone. The air tastes like stone. Your knees have calcified into stone. But the view is dramatic if you're still in the mood to be amazed by anything besides the mystery of how your spine still functions every so often. The trail widens into a flat platform sunning stones, really where you can stop, lean, and silently contemplate your own choices. You're high enough now that even breathing is a chore. It's like each lungful of air is passed through a colander first. Your head swims. Your thoughts start to drift. You remember your neighbor back home, an old man who once warned you to never trust a mountain that looks too quiet. They hide things, he said. At the time you assumed he meant landslides or wild animals. Now you realize he meant secrets that dig into your ribs and whisper. You are very, very small. A hummingbird zips past your face, flitting like an impatient thought. Even the wildlife here is running on overdrive. Meanwhile, your heart is beating like a badly tuned drum. You wonder if anyone has ever exploded from walking uphill too long. Probably. You suspect their bones are still somewhere off this trail, judging passers-by. By mid-morning, the clouds roll in thick. Visibility drops to the length of your outstretched hand. The air becomes damp and eerie. Every footstep sounds muffled. Your group moves slowly now, like ghosts reenacting a memory. Even Malice stops snorting, which is almost worse. The fog blurs the edges of the world. You can't tell where the drop-offs are anymore. You hold your arms out like you're walking, a tightrope, stepping cautiously from stone to stone, praying that the ground stays underneath your feet. It usually does. Usually dot then dash. Without warning, the path flattens. You've reached the pass. There's a crude stone marker here. Just a squat pillar with a faded spiral carved into the top. It leans slightly, like it's tired of watching people struggle past. You rest, you drink. You chew more coca, though it now tastes like tired mint. The wind at the summit is less aggressive than you feared. It's gentle, almost maternal, wrapping round you like a chilly scarf. You take a breath. It doesn't help, Dot, and then it begins to snow, Dot. It's not much, just flurries, whispering past your ears, but it's enough to coat the stones and make your next steps a full-blown dance with fate. You shuffle forward slowly, sideways even arms, out like a heron in crisis. Malice follows with the world-weariness of an unpaid intern. The descent is steep, really steep. Your thighs burn. Your feet begin to cramp. You dig your heels into the dirt where there is dirt, and pray over every rock. Several times you slip and catch yourself just in time. Once. You don't and land hard on your tailbone, with a grunt loud enough to startle nearby birds. They judge you from above. You feel it. The fog thins as you lose altitude. With it comes the first real warmth of the day, is slight, hesitant kiss of sun through the clouds. You smell moss. You hear water somewhere. It feels like maybe, possibly, you are not going to die this morning. A refreshing change of pace. You pass a strange circular clearing, where the grass is flattened in a perfect spiral. No marker, no sign, just emptiness with a pattern. Was it a ritual site? A lost garden? A crop circle from a time before crops? Historians still argue whether these formations were sacred, strategic, or just places where people stood around trying not to fall over. Further down, the path turns to mud. Not dirt mud, the kind of sticky, suctioning goop that wants to pull your sandals off and eat them. You trudge through it with the resolve of someone who no longer believes in dry things. Your feet make squelching noises, the boy with the loud cough now has a matching cough-squelch rhythm that's both irritating and weirdly soothing. Dot, and then a sound. Not wind, not birds, a voice. Human. Dot, you come upon the rest stop. A low stone building with a flat roof and smoke curling out the side. Inside, a fire crackles. An old woman offers you a bowl of thick stew and does not speak. You accept with a nod, sit on a flat stone, and nearly fall asleep into your bowl. The stew is made from potatoes, herbs, and what might be alpaca. It's spicy. It's heaven. It gives you enough energy to feel your pain in higher resolution. You now hurt in 5 new places. You sit beside a traveling merchant who tells you, through yawns, that he's been walking this route for a decade and still hasn't seen half of it. You grunt. You want to say something wise. Instead, your mouth makes a noise like mirth, and he seems to understand. You lie down after the meal and watch the rafters overhead. They're woven tightly from cane and straw. The smell of the smoke lingers in your tunic. Your hair is damp again. You might never be dry. You accept this. Remember that cliffside shrine from earlier. This resting hut has a small effigy beside. The door, a carved stone snake coiled round a stick. Probably symbolic, possibly threatening. Definitely not something you want to dream about. But you do. Your sleep is shallow but vivid. In your dream, the path never ends. You walk and walk until the stones start whispering your name. You wake with a start and realize the llama has lain down beside you. Malice is warm. You silently thank him. He sneezes again. The night is quiet. You curl up tighter and think of your village. You imagine what it would feel like to step into a tub of warm water. You nearly cry from the sheer luxury of the thought. Someone nearby starts snoring. Meanwhile, in your real life, whenever that is someone has probably texted you up and is annoyed you haven't replied. You haven't been up in days. You are down. So far down, you might be part of the trail. You start before sunrise again. Because of course you do. The Andes do not care about your sleep schedule. The sky is a deep sleep blue. And your breath puffs out in clouds like you're a tiny, underdressed volcano. Your limbs ache, but not in a way that demands sympathy, more like they've resigned themselves to your foolish choices. Malice is surprisingly cooperative this morning, which is suspicious. You check your pouch to make sure nothing edible has vanished in the night. All seems accounted for. He walks beside you, tail twitching, smug as ever. You tell yourself he's just warming up to you. In reality, he's probably planning something today. The path is no longer just steep, it's unforgiving. This stretch of the Chipak One has been carved into the very side of the mountain. Hugging cliffs that drop into nothingness, there are no handrails. There is no margin of error. One good gust of wind and you'll become a lesson for future travelers. Don't daydream near the ledge. The stones here are different, larger, older, more uneven. Some have cracked under centuries of freeze and thaw. You try not to think about how long they've been holding up the weight of people like you. One of them wobbles under your foot. You wobble in response. The world tilts for half a second. Then, somehow, you're upright again. Heart pounding loud enough to echo off the cliffs to your left. A condor wheels through the air. Its wingspan must be twice your height. It soars without effort. Drifting on thermals like a god watching, mortals fumble. You envy it. Not the wings. Necessarily just the altitude competence. It's not coughing. You are by mid-morning. You reach a particularly notorious feature of the road. A section of steep stairs known locally as Vinny's Revenge. It's not a joke. The stairs climb straight up the mountain face with no breaks, no benches, and a cruel sense of symmetry. You count them as you go, and lose track somewhere around. Please just let me die here. You climb in silence. Everyone does. Even the boy with the cough has gone quiet. The only sounds are footsteps, breath, and the occasional scrape of sandal against stone. Each step takes an eternity. Your thighs burn. Your calves scream. You begin fantasizing about sitting down forever, becoming one with the stairs, becoming the stairs. And then it hits you. Your left sandal has finally torn. The strap gives way with a quiet snap that feels louder than thunder. You stop. You look at it. You consider fixing it. Then you look at the drop-off beside you and think, not here. You limp to a flatter part of the path and sit, pulling off the sandal. You try to tie the strap with a piece of twine from your pack. It holds, kind of. You'll need to find a replacement soon, or grow hooves. While you're crouched there, you notice something just off the path. A small, circular depression in the earth, ringed with stones. It's too small to be a fire pit, too deliberate to be random. Some say these were old ritual sites. Others think they were astronomical tools, and some suggest they were just early versions of rest areas, sacred, but practical. You lean towards sacred, if only because you feel like collapsing inside it and becoming part of the landscape. You move on as you round the next bend. The road opens into a small terrace. From here, you can see across the mountains ridges upon ridges, green and gold and gray, mist curling through the valleys like wandering spirits. You want to be moved by the beauty. Instead, your back spasms and you almost drop your packet of sacred cargo down the slope. You don't. But it's close enough that your whole life flashes before your eyes. Corn farming. Awkward flirting with the baker's daughter. And now, this, you tighten the cords. That packet has made it farther than some travelers ever do. A Chesqui runner passes you again. Barefoot and flying. He nods once, like a wind spirit with great cows. You try to nod back, but it feels more like your neck has been replaced with dry rope. Eventually, you reach a small bridge, one of the many stone crossings that link this ancient highway. It arches over a stream so clear it looks painted. You stop to drink. The cold shocks your teeth. But it's clean. It's life. You splash some on your face and feel, for a second, like a human again. A local family is resting nearby, their goods wrapped in colorful cloth bundles. One child is chewing on a dried fruit the size of your fist. Another plays with a toy made from bits of carved bone. They smile at you. You try to smile back. But your face has forgotten how you move on, passing them quietly. Not far ahead, you reach a ceremonial site, a small temple structure carved into the cliffside. Just 3 walls and a raised platform, with a niche where a golden idol might once have stood. It's abandoned now, but offerings remain: bits of coca, feathers, tiny clay figurines. You add a piece of your corn ration, not because you're religious, but because fear and altitude make you open to new ideas. Historians still argue whether these cliff temples were for rest, worship, or warnings. Some say the Incas built them where travelers were most likely to need divine encouragement. Others suggest they marked ley lines of spiritual energy. You suspect they were simply placed wherever people looked most likely to cry out as you descend into the next valley. The path levels out briefly. Your knees rejoice. Then they realize they've been tricked. A new incline rises ahead. It's not as steep, but it's longer. The kind that breaks spirits in slow increments. You walk it anyway. Because the only other option is to stop. And stopping means being left behind. You'd rather die moving forward. Remember your sandals. The repaired one is holding. Kind of. The knot keeps slipping. Your toes poke out like explorers trying to escape. Malice snorts out by late afternoon. You reach another tambo. This one's different. Bigger, to floors, real doors, a llama pen, and inside, stew. It's the same Rutan meat concoction as before, but this one has more salt and possibly an onion. You could weep. You nearly do. You share a fire with 2 messengers from the north. One carries a knotted kipu that looks like it contains an entire census. The other says nothing. Just eats while watching the flames like they owe him money. You settle in near the heat. Your bones unclench. Your skin still itches. Your hair smells like cold sweat and regret. But you're alive. You lie back on your woven mat and stare at the ceiling. The rafters look like ribs. Your limbs feel like jello beaten with a stick. You close your eyes. Somewhere in the dark, Malice is chewing. You decide to forgive him. Meanwhile, back in your other life, someone is heating a frozen pizza and complaining that the crust is a little chewy. You'd give anything for a chewy crust. You dream of warm rooms, of blankets that aren't wet, of chairs, of not walking. You wake up before your eyes are even open because something hurts. Not a sharp pain. Not anything specific. Just a full body awareness that everything from your eyelashes to your ankles has filed complaints. You groan softly and peel yourself up from the mat. Your spine makes a sound like someone snapping twigs in a distant forest. That can't be good. Outside, dawn is draped lazily over the mountains. A few early travelers shuffle around the tambo, yard, checking their gear, brushing down llamas, and offering quick prayers to the stone idol beside the door. You recognize the expression on their faces, grim resignation with a splash of quiet panic. The standard emotional palette for Highland travel. You step outside and are immediately slapped in the face by the morning air. Cold, sharp, and somehow wetter than air should be. You forgot how high up you still are. The clouds hang low today, and as you walk through the mist, it's like moving through someone else's breath. You rub your arms and look at the sky. There are no birds. That's never a good sign. Today's path tilts upward again. Of course it does. You've begun to suspect the Incas built this road system entirely uphill in every direction. And the sun, ever the dramatic show-off, pierces the fog with a blinding beam of light right into your eyeballs. You squint and mutter something rude about Inti under your breath. The god of the sun hears you and promptly disappears behind a fresh bank of clouds. You deserve that. As the trail climbs, the terrain changes again. Less stone, more loose gravel. The footing becomes tricky. You slip more than once, arms flailing like a sleep-deprived crane. Malice watches impassively, chewing something dry and fibrous he definitely wasn't supposed to find. After a few miserable switchbacks, you pass a group of stone huts perched precariously on the slope. They're abandoned now, ghost shells of a once functioning outpost. Their thatched roofs are long gone, replaced by nothing but lichen and bird droppings. You pause to look inside one. It's cold, dark, and smells like mildew and old smoke. You want to move and as you trudge on. You begin to sweat. Not a gentle glow, more like a full-body internal boil. Your damp tunic sticks to you again, soaked through from a combination of sweat, mist, and despair. The wind picks up and your body responds by going full thermostat confusion, sweat and shivers. Delightful. Welcome to the Andean climate, where freezing at noon and sunburn at midnight are not contradictions, they're just how the mountains express affection. You pull your cloak tighter. It does nothing. The path now crosses a narrow ridge that feels less like a road and more like a tightrope for people who hate themselves. On either side, the mountain falls away sharply into oblivion. You walk it with all the grace of a goat on stilts. Your breath is ragged, your eyes sting. Your soul briefly exits your body just to hover nearby and shake its head. A gust of wind hits you. Sideways, not strong, but sneaky, just enough to make you sway. You stagger and catch yourself. Malice doesn't even flinch. You begin to suspect he's bulletproof. Eventually, you reach a shrine built into the cliffside. It's simple. A small platform, a fire pit, and a stone idol carved with the face of what looks like a fox. You are not sure if it's sacred or just very serious about rodent control. You offer a coca leaf and say something that could be a prayer or just a plea from mercy. Not far beyond the shrine, the trail slopes down again. A brief, welcome descent. You practically roll your way down, letting gravity do half the work. It's the most fun you've had in days, until you twist your ankle on a loose rock. It's not serious, just enough to remind you who's boss. You limp for a bit, then you limp faster. You stop by a cold stream to refill your water pouch. The water sparkles like it's auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. You sip it carefully. It's freezing. Your teeth sing a little opera of regret. Nearby, a group of children is collecting herbs. One of them offers you a leaf. You chew it. It's bitter. Your tongue goes numb. You assume that means it's working. Later, you pass a field of terraces carved into the mountain like giant staircases. For mythical giants, they're empty now, but once grew potatoes, quinoa, and maize. Ingenious engineering, perfect drainage, sun exposure, temperature control, and you can barely walk in a straight line without falling over. A plaque has been carved into a stone at the base of the terraces. It's old, half erased by weather. The only clear image is a sunburst. You wonder if it once welcomed royal envoys or maybe warned travelers that the stairs ahead were soul-destroying. A little further along, you come upon a herd of alpacas, not wild, just unsupervised. They eye you with suspicion. One trots closer and spits directly into your boot. It misses the foot, thankfully, but the message is clear. You apologize anyway. It feels polite. The road tilts again. Of course, you climb in silence. Your feet have blistered. One toe is definitely missing. An ale, your shoulders ache from the weight of your cargo. Your lips are dry and cracked. Your stomach grumbles like a dying jaguar. But something strange happens. You start to feel lighter. Not physically, oh no. You're still a bag of suffering, strapped to itself with twine and stubbornness, but in your mind. There's a rhythm now. One step, then another. The road doesn't end, but it becomes a kind of trance. You don't think, you just move, like water down a channel, like a llama across a pass, like someone who has accepted their role in a very weird, very old machine. Eventually, you reach a rest stop. No buildings, no fires, just a flat clearing and a low stone wall built to block the wind. You sit against it and chew your last bit of sharqui. It's even drier than yesterday. You decide to name it Hope and eat it anyway. Malice settles beside you and finally leans against your side. His warmth is comforting. You forgive him for everything, even the spitting. The sun begins to dip. The wind is rising again. You pull your cloak tighter. Your sandal is fraying at the edges. Your pack strap has cut a permanent groove into your shoulder. You rest your head against the wall and close your eyes. In the modern world, someone is adjusting the thermostat from the comfort of their couch because 23 Celsius is a little chilly. You would commit mild crimes for that temperature. You dream of flat roads, of sandals that fit, of soup that doesn't taste like boiled pencil shavings. You dream of a bed, of home, of a life without stairs. You dream that the mountains are singing. You don't know the words. You wake up to the sound of hooves, or rather, soft, fuzzy footfalls. A caravan of traders has arrived at the clearing in the dawn mist. The lead merchant hums a tune that might be a hymn, or might just be what someone sings when their knees are a distant memory. You sit up, your spine creaking like an old door. Malice stands and immediately relieves himself near your foot. Good morning to you, too. Today's path is, if possible, worse. It doesn't go up or down, it undulates, long rolling rises that sap your energy, followed by disappointing dips that never quite let your legs recover. You begin to long for a slope that commits to its own direction. This middle ground. It's a betrayal. As the sun rises, the land opens up into high grasslands, Puna. The locals call it a place where the sky feels too close and the ground never quite levels. It's beautiful in an I'd rather be anywhere else kind of way. The wind is constant here, but somehow less biting than before, just firm, like a persistent and nudging you forward whether you're ready or not. The path becomes less defined, just ruts in the ground, faint stone borders marking what used to be a perfectly maintained road. You wonder if this is where the Empire starts to fray at the edges. There's no signpost, just the memory of infrastructure. The stones are still underfoot, but hidden now beneath tufts of yellow grass and ankle-twisting dips. You pass an old man traveling alone, bent nearly double with age, but still walking with more rhythm than you can manage. He carries a pouch of something wrapped in soft wool. You nod as you pass. He nods back. His eyes say, "Yes, it always hurts this much." Round midday, you stop to rest beside a narrow stream. The water's cold and iron-rich, leaving red streaks along the stones. You wash your hands. They look older than they did 2 weeks ago. Or is it 3? Time here has dissolved into walking and sleeping and trying not to die creatively for lunch. You gnaw on a ton of freeze-dried potato that's been stomped, sun-dried, and stored since the last solstice. It has the texture of old chalk and the taste of historical regret. You chew slowly, not because you're savoring it, but because you suspect it might reform into a full potato if rehydrated too quickly. Malice stands nearby, chewing something that may or may not be your pouch strap. You pretend not to see. You're rejoined by a group you met days ago, a trio of messengers carrying imperial records. One of them has shaved off all his hair for speed. Another has wrapped his legs in cloth bindings to keep his muscles from giving up. They look tired, but efficient. You feel tired and moist. The clouds roll in thick again. This time, they bring rain, not a storm. Just a slow, steady drizzle that seeps into everything. Your cloak begins absorbing moisture like it's been waiting for this moment. You walk with your head down, trying to keep your neck dry. It doesn't work. Your feet squelch. You squint against the gray. The wind has shifted. It now comes at you head on, like it's personally offended by your existence. You consider apologizing to the sky, just in case later you come across another way station. It's smaller than the last, more like a glorified shed than a true temple. But there's shelter, and a small fire inside, and a woman who hands you a steaming cup of something that tastes like mint, smoke, and boiled sticks. It's perfect. She tells you that the pass ahead is often closed by landslides this time of year. You nod, trying not to panic audibly. She shrugs. It will be open. Enough for someone like you. You are not sure if that's optimism or insult. You drink the rest of the twig tea anyway. Back on the trail, you reach an overlook just before dusk. It shows the valley below the direction of Cusco. Still far, still entirely mythical. You can just make out the dark line of a royal road etched into the distant slope, like someone drew it in with charcoal and a ruler. It gives you hope, brief, flickering, entirely unjustified hope. You cling to it anyway, as you walk. You think about the things you miss, not just warm beds or real food or the ability to bend your knees without sweating. You miss the idea of predictability, of schedules, of sitting. You recall the baker back in your village, how she used to pull the bread from the fire with that little twist of her wrist, steam rising in fragrant curls. You trade a full pouch of coca leaves for one bite of her flatbread right now, even the stale kind. The sun disappears behind a curtain of rain just as you reach a cave that serves as tonight's shelter. It's not a tambour. There's no official roof, no fire pit, no carved idol. Just stone, moss, and the scent of wet llama. You wedge yourself between a rock wall and Malice, who bless him settles beside you like a free furnace. You wrap your cloak tight, pull your knees to your chest, and pretend your hip isn't screaming. Your stomach grumbles. You respond by chewing a strip of jerky so dry it seems to retract from your teeth like it's offended. Still, it's food. Kind of. As night falls, someone across the cave begins softly humming. The sound is low, tuneless, but comforting. You close your eyes. Outside, the rain whispers through the valley like a secret. Meanwhile, someone in the modern world is looking at a treadmill and thinking, maybe I'll go for a run tomorrow. You would like to send them a message from the Andes. Don't. You drift off to sleep, dreaming of dry socks and quiet mornings. You dream that the road finally ends, not with a climb, but with a bench. A real bench, with a cushion. You will weep when that day comes. The cave floor is unforgiving. Your shoulder blade has spent the night battling a rock, and the rock has won decisively. You open your eyes to darkness, to the sound of shifting animals and someone softly snoring in a rhythm that implies chronic nasal. Betrayal, Malice nods, once beside you, his warm bulk still pressed against your hip. You whisper a quiet thank you to him. He responds by shifting slightly and trapping your foot under his stomach. Close enough. Outside, the rain has slowed to a moist drizzle. Mist curls through the valley like it's gossiping with the stones. The sky is still iron-colored. And your bones are too stiff to stretch without negotiation. You peel yourself upright, grimace at your sandals, both of which now seem to be held together by sheer optimism, and begin the process of becoming mobile. The trail ahead is cruel. Not dramatic, just insidious. You climb slowly along a narrow ledge path that was probably designed by someone who deeply misunderstood human anatomy. The incline is shallow, but the surface is slick with moss and rain. You're forced to test each step before committing. Like an indecisive crab, your knees wobble with every shift in weight. And then you see it, the rope bridge. It spans a narrow gorgeous slash in the mountain where the land forgot to connect itself. The bridge is made of thick, woven ichu grass, suspended from wooden stakes hammered into stone at either side. It creaks slightly in the wind, swaying like it's remembering all the other terrified feet that crossed it. You freeze. There's no alternative, no detour. The gorge is too steep to climb down, too wide to leap across, and too slippery to risk cleverness. You tighten your straps. You whisper a vague promise to any deity within earshot. Malice looks at you, ears flicking forward, as if to say, you first. You step onto the bridge. It moves, not dramatically but enough. Enough for your stomach to relocate to your collarbone. The ropes twist slightly beneath your weight. The planks rough, damp, definitely older than they should be, grown softly. You breathe in shallow gasps, arms out, knees bent, every step a prayer. Halfway across, the wind picks up, a gentle gust. Really? But in your current mental state, it might as well be a hurricane. The bridge sways again. You freeze. Below, a river churns far beneath you, too far to hear, but close enough to imagine. Malice steps onto the bridge behind you. The entire structure shifts again. Subtly but firmly, the ropes tighten. Then flex. The tension radiates through your spine. You keep walking. One step, then another. The far side inches closer. Every part of your body is clenched. Even your eyelids are nervous. Finally, your foot hits solid ground. You fall to your knees, not out of drama, but because your legs have decided that your decision-making cannot be trusted. Malice trots off the bridge behind you, chewing nonchalantly. You lie on the ground for a moment, just breathing. The fog moves overhead like a curtain. A single drop of water lands on your forehead. A tiny punctuation mark on your internal monologue. You are ridiculous. Once your heart rate drops to merely alarmed, you rise and press forward. The trail here winds through scrubland low grasses, strange succulents, and a few gnarled trees that look like they've seen too much. The terrain levels out a bit, offering a rare stretch of nearly flat ground. It feels like walking on dreams. You nearly forget the pain in your feet. Nearly. You reach a small rest station tucked into a hollow of stone. A group of workers is repairing the road hauling, fresh stones, patching sections lost to erosion. One of them offers you a piece of roasted maize. You eat it gratefully. The taste is smoky, simple and perfect. The kind of flavor that says, you're still alive. Congratulations. You chat briefly with one of the workers, a young man from the coastal plains. He's never seen the ocean, but he's heard stories. You nod, realizing you've never seen it either. The two of you share a strange silence. Then he returns to his tools, and you to your path, not far beyond. You pass a carved stone bench beside the road. No one sitting on it. You don't either. You want to. Desperately, but you've learned that once you sit, the body begins. Negotiations to never stand again. You move on. The road curves up again. This time through a forest of short, thick trees. Their leaves glisten with mist. The air smells of wet bark and old rain. Birds chirp somewhere above, offering commentary. You don't understand. Halfway through the woods, you find another shrine, this one barely visible. A low mound of stones with a cracked bowl perched on top. Inside, dried flowers, a llama bone, and a single, perfectly round stone. You leave behind a thread from your cloak. It's frayed already. Symbolism. You begin to think about your destination. Again, Cusco, the capital, the beating heart of the empire. You've heard stories, gold-covered temples, markets full of color, music that echoes down the alleys at dusk. But it still feels mythic, not real, not reachable. You pass a caravan headed the other direction, 3 traders, to donkeys, one, shawled asleep on a woven bundle. One of the men tells you the road ahead is clear. You thank him and try not to let your face reveal the sheer depth of your skepticism as dusk descends. You reach a high plateau. The sky is still overcast, but the clouds begin to blush with the dim glow of evening. You find a flat place between 2 boulders and settle in for the night. You eat another pouch of food, tubers. Dry meat, a sad little chili pepper you nibble, and immediately regret. Malice curls up beside you again, a living, wheezing pillow. You rest your head against his side and feel his breath rise and fall. You look at your hands. The blisters have matured into hardened calluses. Your fingers look like they belonged to someone who quarried stone with bare hands. You feel oddly proud and equally alarmed. Meanwhile, somewhere in the modern world, a man is yelling at a smart speaker because it doesn't understand play lo-fi beats, but only the rainy ones. You would like to send him this moment. The cold earth, the soft llama fur, the taste of survival in your mouth. The wind howls once across the plateau and fades. You sleep with one arm tucked under your head and a rock against your shoulder blade. That somehow feels reassuring. Like a reminder that you're still part of something massive and indifferent and very, very old. You wake up with a rock pressed so firmly into your back that you suspect it's now legally part of your spine. Malice, who has clearly had a fantastic night of rest, yawns beside you with all the slow drama of a creature that knows you can't afford to be annoyed with him. The morning is clear to clear, which in the Andes usually means trouble is trying to lull you into a false sense of optimism. The sky is glass blue, and the wind has disappeared. There's an unnatural stillness, like the mountain is holding its breath. You chew your morning ration, a cracked corn cake and something that might once have been cheese, and start walking again before why. Our body can fully protest. Your joints sound like a percussion band warming up. Today, the path climbs towards something called Sacrifice Hill. That's not the official name. Of course, no one in the Empire would be that dramatic about it. But every traveler you've met refers to it with the same tone, half joking, half warning. The climb is long, not steep, but steady. The kind of slope that doesn't feel bad until an hour in. When your calves have gone from mild complaint to open rebellion, the sun beats down from a high, pitiless angle, and there's no shade. Just tufts of dry grass and the occasional cactus-like shrub that offers exactly zero relief. As you ascend, you begin to see structures dotting the hill, low stone platforms, spaced evenly apart. Some are just foundations. Others have crumbling walls, partially collapsed roofs, traces of paint long faded by time and wind. You pass one with a carved step leading up to a flat-topped altar. A faded design curls along the edge, possibly A sunburst, possibly a llama wearing a crown. You don't ask questions. You just walk faster at the summit. The trail opens onto a wide, flat plateau. From here, you can see in all directions mountains stacked behind mountains, and the road curling like a ribbon across their spines. In the middle of the plateau is a stone platform, bigger than the others, higher, still intact. You pause. It's not marked, but it doesn't have to be. This is one of the Empire's high ceremonial sites, places where the priesthood conducted rituals too. On the mountain, spirits, the sky gods, the ancestors. Some say sacrifices were made here. Others argue it was for watching the stars, charting the seasons, measuring the sacred breath of the earth. Historians still debate whether the Inca built these structures to channel power or simply to acknowledge it. You walk slowly around the altar. There are depressions in the stone places where offerings were burned, or stored, or poured. One is stained dark, but from what, you can't say. You place a coca leaf at the edge and whisper a blessing under your breath, not because you believe, just in case you're wrong. Malice stands at the edge of the platform, staring into the distance like he's contemplating the nature of time. You wonder, not for the first time, if he's smarter than you. Then he sneezes onto his own foot and you feel better. You move on. The path down the far side of the hill is steeper. Your knees wobble. Your feet slide. You rely on the walking stick you picked up 2 days ago, a gnarled branch with a comforting curve that you've come to treat as a co-pilot. It doesn't talk back. You appreciate that as you descend. The clouds roll in again, this time from below. A layer of mist creeps up the mountain's belly like a tide coming in. You're soon swallowed in white, the path disappearing except for the few feet in front of you. Every step becomes guesswork. You walk like someone creeping through a memory in the mist. You stumble upon another stone marker, this one carved with what appears to be a condor, wings spread wide. Beneath it, another spiral. You trace it with your finger. The stone is cold, smooth, and slightly wet from the mist. You have no idea what it means, but it feels important. Further on, the path levels out briefly before curving toward a cliff edge. There, carved directly into the face of the rock, is a shallow alcove. Inside, 3 human figure statues, life-sized, made of stone, to sit cross-legged. The third stands, arms folded. Their faces are featureless, but imposing. They face the trail as if they've been waiting for you. You stop. The air is absolutely still. You don't speak. You just walk past, heart hammering a little faster than usual. Malice gives the statues a wide berth, which is either superstition or very good instincts. You descend further into a narrow gorge, the mist thinning as you drop. The rocks here are redder, dustier. The vegetation returns, stunted trees, grasses. A few yellow flowers clinging to life in cracks. The air is warmer, slightly. You reach a flat space near a stream and collapse next to it. The water is cold, fast and clear. You drink until your head buzzes. You splash your face. You sit still for a while, watching the current move past as if it's going somewhere better. You eat your lunch slowly. A boiled egg, surprisingly still good. A wrinkled fruit. And something labeled grain mix that tastes like sorrow. You've never appreciated protein so much in your life. Later, you pass a group of porters hauling massive bundles uphill. They grunt with every step, faces locked in effort. One man carries a load larger than himself, wrapped in cloth and strapped across his chest. He doesn't look angry. He just looks elsewhere, like his mind left his body several days ago and is waiting for him in Cusco. You offer to help. He laughs once, then shakes his head. You nod and keep walking. The afternoon light turns golden. As the sun dips behind the peaks, you are nearing another tambo, this one marked by a carved post and 2 rows of stones flanking the trail. You pick up the pace not much, but enough that your ankles notice and voice their disapproval. Inside, the tambo is crowded. A dozen travelers, maybe more. Most are sleeping already. A few sit near the hearth, warming hands, drying cloaks. You wedge yourself into a corner near a pile of firewood and do your best impression of someone who isn't completely unraveling. You eat again this time. A stew offered by a trader heading south. It tastes of onion, meat, and gratitude. You don't ask what kind of meat. You assume edible is enough. Outside, the wind has returned. It howls against the tambo walls, rattling loose reeds and slipping under the door like an unwelcome guest. You wrap your cloak tight and sink down into a ball of warmth, llama, and fatigue. Malice lies at your feet, cold like a cinnamon roll of disdain. Meanwhile, someone in the modern world is sending a food delivery order back because it came with cilantro. You want to scream across time. Do you know how lucky you are to have options? Instead, you sleep. And in your dreams, the statues on Sacrifice Hill whisper secrets to you, but in a language you don't speak. The wind never stops. It whispers through the tambo rafters all night long, prying at your sleep like a bored ghost with cold fingers. You drift in and out, waking once to a distant rustling and again to someone snoring so rhythmically it might qualify as music. At one point, Malice rolls onto your foot. You forgive him immediately. He is warm and you are not. By dawn, the tambo is already in motion. A pot of something vaguely drinkable simmers over the fire-spiced water. Maybe, or very ambitious tea. You cup your hands round it like it contains answers. It does not, but it's hot, and that's enough. The air outside is colder than it was yesterday. Not freezing, just mean. It stings your cheeks and peels at your fingers. You set off with your hood pulled low and your pack digging into that same spot on your spine that now feels permanently reshaped. Today's stretch is flatter. But don't get excited. It's the kind of deceptive flatness that still manages to rise imperceptibly. Like the world is tilting uphill just to keep you humble. After a short walk, you reach another checkpoint. Stone pillars mark the entrance to a new district, one of the many administrative borders. Within the Empire, there's a thatched shelter nearby and a man in full regalia standing beneath it, arms crossed. He wears a feathered headdress, not the tall, ceremonial kind used in Cusco, but the smaller, stiff-feathered type that marks his rank as a local official. His tunic is freshly dyed, geometric patterns in indigo and rust. Round his waist hangs a bundle of kipu cords, knotted in precise patterns. He's not smiling. You approach and give your name, village, purpose, and route. He listens without blinking. Then he asks you to repeat it slower. You do. Your voice sounds cracked and high, like it forgot how to behave in formal situations. He consults his kipu. The cords hang like the tangled thoughts of a very organized mind. He reads them with a series of tugs and finger taps. Then, still silent, he points to a clay pot beside him. Inside, a thick ink, a brush, and a smooth shard. A bark dot. He gestures for you to write your identifier. You take the brush, dip it, and try to form the symbols your community taught you. The ink smears, the bark splinters. You manage something barely legible. He raises one eyebrow, not impressed. Still, he stamps the bark with a carved stone, rolls it in a cloth, and ties it. Then hands it to you, proof you passed through, proof you exist. Bureaucracy, in its most ancient form. As you leave, he mutters something to low to hear. Possibly good luck, possibly you'll need it. The road widens beyond the checkpoint, clearly one of the royal routes. The stones are tighter, more symmetrical, less angry. You walk easier. Your ankles sign cautious relief, and then you hear it. A low droning hum. It comes from above, echoing down the slope. You stop. Everyone stops. Even Malice lifts his head. Ears perked, the hum grows louder. You see them, a line of messengers moving downhill at full speed. Chasqui. Dozens of them, not the usual lone runner, but a chain relay. Each one bursts forward, hands passing bundles or kibbas as they sprint. Their tunics are tighter, their sandals newer, and their faces determined. You step aside quickly. One runner flashes past, barely brushing the ground. Another leaps a puddle like he's part bird. The third passes you so closely you feel the wind in his wake. It's terrifying. It's beautiful. You realize, distantly, that the package you've been carrying now, deeply wrinkled and slightly sweat-soaked, is one small part of this vast system. Information, goods. Orders, they all move like blood through veins. You're a platelet. Later, you reach a small side path that leads to a cliff edge. Curious and, okay, a little desperate for an excuse to sit. You follow at dotted ends at a stone bench carved directly into the rock, facing a view so vast you feel like a speck below. A river snakes through a canyon, silver in the sun, terraced. Farms line the very walls like the fingerprints of ancient engineers. You sit, you breathe. You eat a snack of dried maize and a withered fruit that tastes like slightly sweet wood. You think about your village, about the moment you were summoned to serve, about how many others have done this before you. You're just a shadow walking along their footprints. A man joins you on the bench. He nods, offers you a chunk of coca cake. It's dense, bitter, and oddly comforting. You eat in silence. He asks where you're from. You tell him. He grunts. Father. You nod. Cusco. He nods back. Father. Then he stands and leaves. No parting, just gone. You stay another minute, then follow. The road resumes its usual cruelty a few hours later. More stairs, steeper ones this time. Your legs ache in a way that feels structural. Your repaired sandal fails again. You stop to tie it back together using a strip of cloth torn from your cloak. It works, barely. You tell yourself you'll make it last. But the cloth is fraying, just like you. Near sunset, you find a tambo that's half collapsed, but still warm from the sun. You share the space with a group of weavers transporting dyed thread to market. They talk softly, weaving as they sit, their fingers moving faster than thought. One woman offers you a piece of cocoa wrapped in llama fat. For the cold, she says, you take it, you chew. You regret nothing. Malice finds a warm patch beside a wall and sinks down with a heavy breath. You curl beside him, grateful. You are, for now, not moving. You close your eyes to the sound of thread being pulled, needles tapping softly like distant raindrops. Meanwhile, someone in your other life is swiping on their phone, ignoring all the notifications because they're too much work. You want to swap them into your sandals just once. One incline, one llama. You drift to sleep imagining the checkpoint officer again, but this time, he stamps your pass and hands you a sandwich. It's the best dream you've had in days. Just before sunrise. The weavers pack up and disappear like a dream you only half remember. You wake to the smell of damp wool and the feel of condensation dripping off the tambo walls. Malice is already standing, stretching his neck in lazy ox. Your body, meanwhile, wakes up with the elegance of collapsing scaffolding. You sit up slowly. Legs stiff, spine crunchy, and feet no longer interested in your plans. You chew a cold bit of maize, tear off a strip of dried meat. And consider for the 1000th time how a world without socks is a world with far too much. Suffering, the road ahead looks manageable, low hills, a slight incline. Nothing too dramatic, but you've learned by now that looks lie. This is the Andes. Every slope has a hidden agenda. You start moving, sandals patched and striped with so many different materials they now resemble abstract art. The first few steps are always the worst. Your feet have forgotten how to function. Your knees aren't convinced they should bend, and your shoulders ache like they've been personally insulted by gravity. Still, the motion warms your joints, and after a few slow minutes, you find that familiar rhythm: left foot, right foot. Don't think about it too hard. Repeat. The air is dry today, but not harsh. There's a quiet softness to the sky, overcast, without menace, like the weather has paused to catch its breath as you walk. The trail winds through a long, narrow valley flanked by steep ridges. Terraced farms descend like staircases carved from the slope. Empty now, waiting for the next planting season. You wonder what it would feel like to tend a single plot here, day in, day out, rather than hauling half your body weight across continents. Maybe that's what peace is, just the absence of walking uphill. Eventually you reach a fork in the path, marked by a stone with a carved arrow and a spiral below it. One route continues along the valley. The other climbs sharply toward a set of stacked stones that look vaguely ceremonial. You take the lower path, not because it's easier, necessarily just because it doesn't insult your knees quite as directly as the road curves. You pass a woman seated on a flat rock, her back straight, her hands working swiftly at a spindle. She's spinning thread from alpaca wool, humming something under her breath that carries on the wind like a lullaby. She doesn't speak, just nods as you pass. You nod back. That's all the conversation needed. A little further on, the road narrows again, hugging the edge of a cliff where the mountain drops into a green hollow. You don't look down, not because you're afraid, but because your body has quietly agreed not to acknowledge danger until it's directly involved. You keep your eyes forward, watching the stone path wind along the slope like a stubborn river. Midday brings warmth, then too much warmth. You sweat through your tunic, then into your cloak, then into the layer of regret beneath your skin. The sun here doesn't roast, it bakes slowly, like you're being turned into travel-sized jerky. Your lips crack again. Your eyes burn from the light bouncing off the stone. The air tastes like dust and old altitude. You pass a group of boys herding llamas, their faces hidden under wide-brimmed hats. One waves. You wave back. Malice ignores them all. His disdain for a fellow creatures remains one of his few consistent traits. At the next rest point, a shallow cave carved by centuries of wind offers you a moment of shade. You duck inside, stretch your back, and gnaw on a piece of tunta so dry it actually makes a noise when you bite it, for a few moments. The world feels still. Outside, the wind picks up. You hear it rushing through the valley like it's chasing something, probably you. You emerge from the cave and keep walking. A low thrum begins in the distance, not thunder drums. A festival, maybe, or a relay of messages being signaled by sound. You walk faster, curious. The sound gets louder, echoing off the walls of the canyon ahead. You round a bend and find a small settlement tucked into a bowl of earth, built from clay and stone and thick thatch roofs. It's temporary seasonal housing for messengers, traders, maybe officials moving between districts. You ask a woman squatting near a fire about the drums. She gestures up the slope and says, "Ritual." That's all. Just that one word, enough to carry both reverence and fatigue. You climb a narrow path toward the noise and find a circle. of figures dressed in dyed tunics, their arms raised, their chants rising and falling with the beat. At the center is a bundle of leaves burning in a stone bowl, smoke twisting up into the sky in thin, purposeful lines. You sit at a distance, listening. The rhythm pulls at something deep in your chest. Not emotion exactly, just the sensation that you're hearing a song older than language. You don't understand the words, but you know exactly what they mean. You rest there longer than intended, lulled by the cadence, the wind, the smoke. Eventually, the ceremony ends, the drums stop, the figures begin to disperse. One man approaches, touches your shoulder, and presses a smooth stone into your palm. For strength, he says. Then walks away. You don't know his name. You never see him again. You keep the stone. Later, much later, as the sun tilts low, you climb a final redancy. In the far distance, the faint shimmer of something man-made, a cluster of terraces, walls, and towers etched into the side of a massive slope. It could be Cusco, or another outpost, or just a trick of light. Either way, your heart stutters in your chest. You're close, not there yet, but closer. You sit near a cairn and eat what's left of your food, a handful of maize, a sliver of salted meat. You sip the last of your water, saving one gulp from morning. Then you lie back, arms folded beneath your head, malice curled beside you. The stars begin to emerge, one by one. As the sky deepens, you look up and wonder who else, centuries before you, laid here aching and awake, watching the same sky, waiting for the road to end. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, someone is standing in front of a microwave, annoyed that 60 seconds feels too long. You want to write them a very long letter. You fall asleep with the stone from the ritual still in your hand. It's warm now, or maybe you are. The next morning your body wakes up before your mind agrees. You lie still for a moment, your eyes half open, listening to the sounds of the highlands as if they've become part of you, the whistling wind over stone, the soft snort of malice stretching beside you, the faint tapping of your heart against your ribs like it's knocking to see if anyone's still home. You sit up slowly, bones clicking back into place with theatrical reluctance. Everything hurts, but not urgently. It's the kind of slow, settled ache that means your body has stopped resisting this life and is simply enduring it now. You chew on a handful of dry grain and wipe your mouth with a sleeve that smells like a year's worth of smoke, wool, and unresolved trauma. The path ahead starts downhill for once, and you savor it, letting gravity carry you for a brief, glorious stretch. You walk with the loose limb stride of someone too tired to care if they look competent. The road descends into a gentle bowl between two ridges, the air warmer, the grass thicker. Here, for a rare few minutes, you feel something resembling peace. You take a deep breath and try not to think about what's waiting uphill. It doesn't last, because soon, as if summoned by the gods of narrative tension, the road climbs again. Not sharply, not cruelly, but steadily, endlessly. Like a staircase designed by someone with a grudge, you plant each foot carefully, not because you're cautious, but because your legs have forgotten how to lift with any conviction. Malice walks behind you, occasionally bumping your pack as if to say, pick up the pace, 2 legs. You do not. You arrive, sometime later, at a cluster of stone buildings ranged round a courtyard. This isn't a tambo. It's bigger. A relay center, maybe, or a checkpoint with extra authority. A stone pillar near the entrance has a fresh carving of the sun and to vertical slashes administrative show. Event for high importance, do not dawdle. You're too tired to dawdle even if you wanted to. An official steps out from the shade, dressed in a layered tunic with vibrant geometric bands. He looks clean, dangerously clean. Like he hasn't walked more than 10 feet in a week. He approaches with a quipu in hand and begins asking questions. You give your name, village, destination, and purpose. You pronounce each syllable with the flat tone of someone who has given this same answer 14 times and has lost all sense of individuality. He listens, nods, ties a few knots. Then he gestures for you to wait. You sit near the entrance and let your body slump against a wall. Malice takes this as a cue to drop beside you with the enthusiasm of a dog who's just tricked his owner into walking too far. Eventually, the official returns with another mentor, older, wearing a tunic of tighter weave and a quipu so elaborate it looks like a curtain. He peers at you, then at your packet, which has become increasingly wrinkled and slightly damp. You hand it over carefully. He weighs it in his palm, not opening it, just nodding slowly like he's measuring its value through some sixth bureaucratic sense. Then he hands it back and says one word. Continue. That's it. No praise, no smile, no thank you, just that one syllable. You say nothing. What would you say? That your feet are held together by stubbornness and animal grease, that your sandals have aged a decade in 5 days, that you've forgotten what it's like to be dry. Instead, you nod, you rise, and you leave. The road after the checkpoint is different, cleaner, straighter, clearly maintained. It feels like walking into a more official version of suffering. The stones are tighter set, the path bordered with drainage channels, the turns engineered with infuriating precision. There's no room for improvisation now. You follow it because it doesn't offer you choices. It just is. By midday, the sun hangs directly overhead and your cloak is soaked through again. Not from rain, just from the reality of being wrapped in heavy cloth on a mountain where the temperature shifts hourly between freeze your soul and cook your regrets. You pass a pair of runners moving in the opposite direction. One of them is barefoot and grinning like the air here is made of wine. You hate him deeply and instantly, but only a little. They pass without stopping, legs moving like drum beats. You try not to compare your pace to theirs. You fail. Later, you find a shrine at the edge of the path, just a low square of stones with a bowl in the center, filled with burnt offerings, crushed flowers, blackened maize, the charred remains of something once feathered. A faint smell of smoke still lingers. You place a pebble from your pouch into the bowl, not out of faith, but out of habit, or maybe hope. The road begins to slope again, climbing toward a ridge that cuts the sky like a blade. It's steep, exposed, and utterly indifferent to your feelings. You trudge upward, stopping every few minutes to curse softly and pretend you're admiring the view. The view, in fairness, is extraordinary layer after layer of mountains, folding into each other like ancient paper, shadows chasing clouds across their spines. You take a long breath and keep going. Cresting the ridge, you find a flat expanse that stretches wider than anything you've seen so far. A rest area, a real one, with fire pits, shelters, and even a carved bench that hasn't yet been claimed. You collapse onto it without asking permission from your knees. Across the clearing, a group of merchants is boiling something in a clay pot. You trade a piece of cloth for a bowl. It's thick, spicy, and burns your mouth. You eat every drop. Malice sits beside you and eyes your bowl. You give him the last bit of broth. He slurps it like a king. As the light fades, the air turns cold. Again, the fire near your feet flickers low, and your limbs begin their nightly chorus of complaints. You stretch out your legs and listen to the wind move across the plateau like a song you used to ken. Now, you lean your head against the wall and close your eyes. You are tired beyond speech. You are older than you were yesterday. You are still not in Cusco, Meanwhile, someone in the modern world is watching a video tutorial titled How to Walk 10,000 Steps Without Noticing. You would like to mail in your sandals. You fall asleep to the sound of crackling fire. Murmured stories in a language older than conquest and the slow. Even breathing of a llama who might actually like you. Now, you can't be sure, but he hasn't spit on you in days. You wake to the smell of ash and boiled oats. With your face pressed against a carved bench that's been worn smooth by decades of exhausted travel. Ur's malice is gone. For a heart-stopping moment, you panic. Then you see him on the far side of the plateau, casually chewing something that is almost certainly not his. Crisis averted. You peel yourself upright, your cloak stiff with dried sweat and campfire smoke. Your knees have entered a state beyond pain now. They've gone quiet. Like a part of you that stopped bothering to protest, you stretch, eat the last of your maze, and force your feet back into sandals that have taken on the shape of your suffering. Then you walk. The road from here feels more deliberate. There's a weight to it, is structure. The stones are carefully placed, wide enough for a litter or a caravan to pass. This close to Cusco. The infrastructure sharpens. It's no longer just a path, it's a declaration of empire. The walls that once lined fields are taller now. Their stones fitted like puzzles, polished at the corners. You pass terraces that spiral down hillsides in concentric arcs, layered like amphitheaters. For plants, the air smells richer here, soil. Greenery. Occasional traces of smoke. You spot a group of workers tending to the terraces. Their motions are precise, rhythmic. Guided by something older than language, you nod as you pass. One of them looks up and nods back. Just once, before returning to the work. As you descend further, the houses change to still stone, but cleaner, closer, with sharper angles and painted lintels in faded reds and blues. Children dart between them. A dog barks. The trail begins to widen again, framed by two stone posts. That signal you're entering a buffer zone of the city, a space where rural becomes ritual, where the road is no longer just for walking, but for approaching something sacred. You pause, looking ahead, your breath catching not from exhaustion this time, but from the side of it. Cusco, the navel of the world, as the Empire calls it, and here it is. Just visible through the trees, through the golden haze of mid-morning light. Rising in tears and stone and shimmering quiet, from this vantage, it looks like it's carved from the mountain itself, not built revealed. The city seems to sit in a bowl of hills, its layout deliberate. A sunburst of roads and walls radiating from a center you can't yet see. You've heard stories about Cusco, that it was shaped like a puma from above, that its walls whisper in the wind, that the sober Inca can speak directly to the gods from its highest tower. You never believed most of it. But now, standing here, something deep in your chest stirs. You walk on, down a winding slope flanked by small farms and clusters of traders selling dyed fabric. Dried peppers, carved gourds. No one stops you. No one challenges you. Everyone moves with the calm certainty of people living within the Empire's heartbeat. The final gate is unassuming. 2 pillars, weathered but clean, with symbols etched deep enough to have survived 100 seasons. You pass through it without ceremony. On the other side, the road smooths again, leading directly into the outskirts of the city. Children run past, chasing each other with sticks. A woman pours water over a clay walkway to keep the dust down. A dog with one ear flops beneath a stool. It's all so ordinary, and yet this is the destination. You've arrived. You should feel something more. But mostly, you feel tired, deep in your bones, your marrow, your soul. The packet still rides in your cloak, damp and slightly misshapen. You pull it out and stare at it for a long time. The thing that drove this entire ordeal. You find the designated post house, tucked beside a storehouse stacked with sacks of grain. You enter, say your name, place the packet on the stone counter. The attendant, a man younger than you with neat hair and bored eyes, checks a tablet of softbark, nods once, and stamps the delivery, then waves you away. That's it. No celebration, no trumpet, no acknowledgement that you nearly died on for separate mountains just to deliver something that looks like it might be full of rocks. You step outside again. The road ends behind. You sit on a low step and breathe. Round you, the city hums. Somewhere nearby, a ritual bell rings, a soft clang of bronze on air. A procession passes priests in deep red, their cloaks stitched with gold thread, their feet bare despite the stone. People bow their heads. You do too, not out of piety, but because it feels right to lower your eyes for a moment. When the procession ends, you rise and wander, not far, just enough to find a quiet plaza ringed with low trees and carved benches. You sit again, and this time, you let the weight go, all of it, the pain, the strain, the worry. You set it down beside you like a bundle of old tools. Your sandals are shredded, your pack strap broken, your tunic nearly transparent with wear. You are a ruin walking, but you're here. Malice finds you eventually, plods into the square with no urgency whatsoever, then settles beside you like he owns the entire city. You lean against his side, grateful. You think about the journey not in images, but in sensations. Wet wool, frozen breath, the smell of coca, the sound of wind over stone. The shrines, the stairs, the bridge, the firelight on Sacrifice Hill. And you think, not for the first time, that nobody will believe what you've been through. And that's fine. You don't need them to. You lived it. Meanwhile, someone far away is staring at a to-do list stand, sighing because it has more than 3 items. You hope, gently, that one of those items is walk somewhere without complaining, because if you can do this, barefoot and blistered, they can at least go to the store. You stay in the square until the light turns gold and the shadows stretch. You are not sure what comes next. Return, rest, another errand. You don't know. You just know you made it. That for one long, unbelievable moment, you did the impossible. You walked across the Andes. And you're still breathing. They told you the road back would be easier, shorter, mostly downhill. They lied. Of course they lied. You knew it when they said it. And now that your sandals, what's left of them, are sliding down a slope so steep your knees might file for a separation, the betrayal feels deeply personal. The city is behind you, its walls fading into morning, mist as you descend through the outer terraces. You've been given a new task, a new packet, this one flatter, wrapped in dyed cloth, sealed with a thread pattern that almost seems to hum with tension. You haven't opened it, won't. But the man who handed it over didn't meet your eyes, which tells you plenty. They say this one has to make it north, not far, just 2 days. But you know what that means. You no longer measure distance in days. You measure it in blisters, in toe pain, in the weight of the wind on your shoulders. The trail this time curls into a narrower path, less royal road and more service track. Hugging the lower edge of a valley, the stone paving disappears in sections, replaced with hard-packed dirt and embedded roots. Your pace slows immediately, not because you want it to, but because every part of your body has had enough, and the idea of tripping now this close to the end feels like it would break something deeper than bones. You keep moving, past fields dotted with young maize, past women washing wool in the river. laughing at jokes you're too tired to catch, past a boy leading to llamas who, somehow, are even more insubordinate than Malice. Speaking of whom, he's still with you. You don't question it anymore. He follows you like a silent, free reminder that misery loves company. You'd miss him if he left. And that realization is as surprising as it is depressing. As the path rises again toward a narrow pass, you pass a set of ancient stones laid in the shape of a spiral. Not decorative, deliberate. Some say they mark energy lines in the earth. Others think they were used to orient the stars. Historians still argue whether these formations had spiritual, astronomical, or purely logistical meaning. You stare at the spiral and feel your legs twitch with phantom steps. You're living the spiral now. Always forward, never straight. The weather shifts again. Warm winds from the lowlands sweep up, mixing with the chill of the heights. You're too hot in your cloak, too cold without it. You take it off, put it on, take it off again, eventually. You give up and tie it round your waist like an exhausted fashion statement. Near midday you pass a checkpoint, but this one's abandoned. The post has collapsed. Its stone pillars covered in moss. A broken quipu lies on the ground, half buried. You stand in the silence and wonder what story it used to tell. Then you walk on, as if it never spoke. The afternoon brings hills that roll in a series of slow, cruel waves up, down, up again. Each dip fooling you into thinking you've reached the low point. Your thighs ache, your back knots. The packet thuds against your ribs with every step like a heartbeat out of sync. You mutter curses into the wind. Nothing loud enough for the gods to notice, but pointed enough to feel good. At one point, the trail narrows along a cliff again because of course it does, and a group of goats stares at you from a ledge above with the cold judgment of animals who were born to this life. You are not jealous. You're just hurt. You find a spring at the edge of a terrace and drink until your stomach sloshes. The water is icy, sweet, threaded with minerals. It might be the best thing you've tasted all month. Malice drinks too, then shakes his head so hard he sprays your entire left side. You don't react. That part of your soul is numb now. Evening creeps in with sudden wind. You're high again, another pass you don't remember climbing, and you set up camp near a pile of carved stones that might have once been a wall or an altar or both. You eat dry tubers and a piece of salt cake so hard you have to suck on it like a bitter lozenge. It gives you strength, barely. You wrap yourself in your cloak and curl into the smallest shape your joints will allow. Malice lies beside you, snoring. You watch the stars emerge again, bright and sharp in the highland sky. They don't twinkle, they stab, and yet they feel honest in a way nothing else does. The wind howls once, then dies. Silence settles like dust. You close your eyes and think of home, not because you're close, but because now, finally, you can remember it without pain. Just a small house, the smell of cooking maize, your sister's terrible singing voice echoing off the clay walls. The ordinary becomes sacred when it's far enough away. Meanwhile, in the world you used to know, someone is complaining about the parking at the supermarket. You hope, faintly, that their sandals fall apart. You drift off with the packet still clutched to your chest, like it might float away in the night if you don't hold on. You've carried many things across these mountains, but this one, somehow, feels heavier. You're awake before the sun, though you're not sure you ever really slept. The wind is gone, out the chill has sunk deep into your bones. Like the mountain has decided to borrow some of your warmth and isn't planning to return it. You rise slowly, joints aching in that now familiar slow burn kind of way, muscles coiled into tired knots, your spine bending like a stick soaked in regret. Malice opens one eye as you pack up, gives a single, disgruntled grunt, then reluctantly hauls himself to his feet. He's been with you so long now you don't question it. He's not your pet. He's not your partner. He's just malice and insult with hooves, a travel companion shaped like a disgruntled cloud. The last stretch of the journey begins without drama. No one announces it. No drum beats. No divine sign. Just you, the narrow trail underfoot, and the cold that slowly lifts as the first fingers of light stretch over the distant ridges. You descend into a lower valley where the air thickens slightly and the greenery deepens. Real trees now. Not just desperate shrubs and the occasional burst of color from flowers you don't know the names of. The road curves gently, almost kindly, and for the first time in weeks, your feet don't immediately eject. They just walk. The packet rides steady against your ribs. Now protected in a pouch you patched 3 times yesterday with thread borrowed from a woman who sold ribbons near the checkpoint. You haven't looked inside. Won't. What you carry isn't yours to question, only yours to protect. You meet fewer people now, just a fisherman with a net over his shoulder and a trader with 3 mules on. Do you know patience? They nod, you nod. That's all. Words are luxuries, and neither of you are rich enough to waste them. At midday, you reach the edge of a village, small, humble, the kind built not for glory, but for entrance. The houses are stone with straw roofs, low walls, doorways barely tall enough to duck through. Smoke curls from 3 cooking fires. Children laugh somewhere out of sight. A dog watches you from under a bench with the suspicion of someone who's seen travelers like you before. A woman carrying a bundle of reeds gestures toward a long building at the far end of the main path. You nod again, your voice still buried somewhere under layers of dust. The long building is quiet, cool, shaded. Inside, 2 men sit at a carved table with tools of record, bark scrolls, dyed quartz. Lengths of clay cylinders etched with markings. You offer the packet. The elder of the 2 accepts it, fingers brushing the surface like he's reading it with his skin. He unties it slowly, carefully, as if it might vanish if rushed. Inside is small object wrapped in red thread and sealed with a stamped clay disc. You don't recognize it. You don't ask. The elder inspects it, then looks up and meets your eyes. There is no smile. No thanks, just a short nod, the deepest, most sincere gesture the Empire ever gives. You nod in return. It's done. You step outside. Your legs feel lighter than they have in days. Not because the pain is gone, no. It's still there. Deep and familiar, but because the weight you carried is no longer yours, you are empty in the most relieving sense. Malice finds a patch of shade and lies down. His work also done. You sit beside him, stretch your legs, and take off your sandals. They collapse in your hands like they've been waiting for permission. Your toes are blistered, your heels raw. You trace the outline of your feet in the dust and realize you don't recognize them anymore. They belong to someone else now. Someone who crossed the Andes and came out the other side. You're offered food, simple stew, hot and sharp with herbs, and you eat without speaking. Each bite a victory against the miles. The sun lowers, casting long shadows over the thatched roofs. Someone starts playing a pipe nearby, its melody rising and falling with the breeze. You close your eyes. It's over, for now. But your body still feels the trail like an echo. You'll wake in the middle of the night thinking there's a hill to climb, a path to follow, a packet pressing into your ribs. Your dreams will be full of stone and wind, stairs and sun. That's the cost. That's the mark the road leaves. Meanwhile, in the world beyond, someone is driving to work and cursing traffic because they'll be 10 minutes late. You smile. Barely. Let them have their small crisis. you've had enough real ones for both of you. As the stars rise again your last night, out here you lie back against Malice's side and feel the warmth seep in. You are nothing special, just another traveler on the road. But you made it. And that matters. You made it. Tonight you've traveled far over cold stone pots and narrow ledges, past ancient shrines and silent terraces, through snow and sun, fire and fog. You've walked with llamas and messengers, across ridges that whisper secrets and valleys that never quite open all the way. You've carried burdens you didn't choose in sandals that didn't fit, with a body that never once gave you its full approval. But you kept going, and now you can stop. Let the road fade behind you. Let the stairs crumble into dust. Let your shoulders loosen. Let the memory of those early mornings, that cracked tunic, the cold breath of the mountains let, all of it soften now. Like footprints blurred by falling snow, you've done enough. Your legs don't need to carry you anymore. Your hands can rest, open, quiet. Your heart can beat without hurrying. The sky above is dark and kind. The stars blink slowly. The wind, for once, is still. Maybe you're still, lying beneath that last tambour roof. Or maybe you've made it all the way home. But either way, you are no longer climbing. Tonight, you are held by something older and calmer than time, wrapped in silence, warmed by memory, and slowly, gently, dissolving into sleep. Because the journey ends not with rival, but with stillness, with peace, and as the world turns, softly under the weight of history and starlight, you can finally let go. You're not walking anymore. You're dreaming now.